But unfortunately, Moronda was still unwilling to forgive. Today is really a good day, worth to celebrate properly. Tonight, I will continue to hold a banquet at the main hall, so will everyone here who witnessed today's scene please join in to celebrate along with her. He turned his head towards Chui Yuan Shan and said, Brother Chui, we can't do without you tonight. You must bring along your disciples to attend the banquet. Chui Yuan Shan couldn't take it any further as he banged his hand on the table and stood up in fury. Moronda, you won this round because this sect master had not expected you to have a crouching tiger and hidden dragon under your wing. Not only Li Moying himself is incredible, even the fiancé whom he finds also has such outstanding talent. But even if we Green Cloud sect had lost, that was only temporary, so don't be delighted too soon. Saying that, without waiting for Moronda's reply, he immediately turned around as he flicked his sleeves and left. Moronda was still calling out behind him hypocritically, AI, Brother Chui, what's the matter with you? Why are you in a hurry to leave? The disciples below the stage were totally speechless. Green Cloud sect had lost in such a terrible state, and Moronda still kept on provoking him. Would he not leave in anger? Moronda obviously was doing this on purpose, and yet still pretended to be innocent. If it wasn't for the fact that the occasion wasn't right, Chui Yuanshan would probably be so infuriated that he would murder someone. The minute Chui Yuanshan left, the other Green Cloud sect's disciples had no face to continue staying, so most of them started to leave silently. But these did not escape Celestial Light sect's disciples' eyes. On seeing this scene, many of them bore an expression which rejoiced at one's misfortune. Look, those few Green Cloud sect's disciples just left in this manner, not even daring to lift up their heads. Earlier, weren't they rather arrogant, saying that we only have young sect master as Celestial Light sect's only top expert, and we are bound to lose this time. Now, they've been slapped on the face, right? If I were them, I'd also not have any face to continue staying here. Look at their disheveled faces. It really makes me want to laugh. Their 6th stage realm talent in Green Cloud sect can't even defeat our Celestial Light sect's 4th stage realm. Still have the check to claim that they have plenty of outstanding talents in their sect? Today's competition really makes one feel comforted. Amidst the joyous atmosphere, someone suddenly cried out in shock. Quickly look over there. Young Sect Master came down. On hearing the 3 words, Young Sect Master, many of them immediately turned their heads as they cried out in astonishment. He really is. Young Sect Master is heading towards our direction. Whoa, Young Sect Master's expression doesn't look very nice. This is the first time I've seen him frown, but even though he puts on this expression, he's still so handsome that it makes one suffocate. Stop being star-studded. Young Sect Master isn't heading towards our direction. He's heading towards the arena. So he's going over to look for Junior's sister Bai. Everyone had guessed his motive and couldn't help but get excited as all of their eyes widened as they fixed their sights onto the duo. Actually, recently Huang Yue and Li Moying had been showing off their love, but usually most of them felt that they were incompatible. This was the first time that they were surrounded by all of Celestial Light sect's disciples, and almost all of them gave envious gazes which were filled with blessings. Li Moying's footsteps were swift, and it only took a few steps before he reached the arena stage. Huang Yue kept watching as he walked over as she smiled and opened her mouth. Moying, I told you before that I will definitely gain victory. How about it? I haven't disappointed you, right? However, Li Moying kept a black face on as he hollered, Keep quiet. You can also listen on. You got yourself bruised and riddled with scars, and still dare to ask me if I'm disappointed or not. And although I do admire the fact that you've lost so much blood, but instead of feeling uncomfortable, you actually feel excited? Li Moying's gaze harshly stared at her as he spoke madly. Huang Yue went blank. It feels a little uncomfortable. She had immersed herself in the joy of victory and really didn't notice the unusual condition on her body. Right after Li Moying prodded her, she suddenly sensed that her head was a little giddy, and because she had lost too much blood, her hands and feet were icy cold to the point of becoming numb. Actually, the injuries that she had sustained weren't any lighter than Fong Shouning's. But she had just advanced successfully and obtained victory to the arena tournament. So her body was still in a state of stimulation, hence, she wasn't like Fong Shouning, who fainted on the spot. Now, that kind of dizzy sensation was much stronger, as though in an instant, her energy was zapped totally. Huang Yueli's feet staggered, and at the next moment, she suddenly felt her body being lifted into the air. Immediately after, Li Moying's enlarged handsome face appeared right in front of her. Li Moying carried her horizontally and at the same time, carefully avoiding the injuries on her body as he protected her in his embrace. Huang Yueli subconsciously stretched out her hand as she wrapped it around his neck. "Ah, so giddy. Giddy, and you still push yourself so hard. You're not allowed to talk. Follow me home to rest." Li Moying stared at her, as his tone was still rather fierce. Huang Yueli pursed her lips in grief. "ORH, why must you be so fierce? I'll listen to you." Just looking at her put on this aggrieved little wife look, no one could imagine that just a quarter of an hour ago, she was the same person who put on an awe-inspiring face, winning over the strong. She was a truly strong, talented practitioner. Seeing her acting so obediently, Li Moying's tummy, full of anger from seeing her being injured repeatedly, instantly vanished by a major half. "You are just lacking in lecture. See how I will go back and sort you out when we reach home." He gave a cold humph, and although he still put on a look of disdain, but his tone had already softened by quite a large bit. When he mentioned the words, "sort you out," the deterrent force wasn't there, and it seemed rather ambiguous. Huang Yueli looked upwards as she lifted her eyes to see his perfectly contoured lateral view. Those originally taut cold lines had already softened down by quite a bit. She lightly curled her lips, thinking in her heart that this man was a paper tiger. She knew about this long ago in her past life, that no matter how she ruffled him up, as long as she turned obedient, acted cute and coquettishly, she would be able to settle this man. Indeed, even after a lifetime, he was still the same. She instantly felt reassured as she leaned her head against the man's robust and strong chest, closing her eyes. She had indeed lost too much blood, and moreover, it was an intense battle. Plus the fact that she had advanced at a hurried moment. Her exhaustion was extreme, so the minute she was in her beloved man's embrace, she completely felt safe, and ignoring the scenario, she fell asleep dizzily. Li Moying saw her condition, and his heart started to ache. He lowered his head to kiss her face as he carried her and left. As he walked, he didn't forget to instruct Mo, "Hurry and go invite all the best doctors in the sect to my courtyard to do a consultation for third miss." "Wrong. Get all the doctors to come over. Quick, go immediately. If you delay any time, then bring your head over to see me yourself." You can also listen on. When Moe heard that, he ran off hastily. Li Moying turned his head towards Morong's direction as he nodded his head, carrying his young fiancée, and left the arena stage with big strides. By the time he left, the disciples below the stage all started to discuss enviously. Junior Sister Bai is really fortunate. Young sect master actually carried her in the way grooms carry their brides, and even kissed her. If young sect master treated me in that same way, I'd faint in happiness. I envy Junior Sister Bai so much. TSK, who do you think you are? Why would young sect master want to carry you for? Junior Sister Bai's young sect master's fiancée. There's nothing rare about her being hugged. Moreover, both of them have such good looks. Just looking at them warms the heart and delights the eye. But it's really a little unimaginable. In the past, young sect master would often put on a cold face. Don't think that senior sister Morong keeps following him around all day and tried ways and means, but he had always remained distant without any intimate actions. That time I kept assuming that young sect master was those kind of genius whose heart was totally devoted towards cultivation, totally without any interest towards. In the end, ever since Junior Sister Bai came to Celestial Light's sect. That's right, ever since Junior Sister Bai came, I realized that it wasn't that young sect master didn't know how to pamper anyone. He's practically a slave to his wife. Indeed, no matter how cold and powerful a man is, there would be someone who can subdue him. The crucial point is it depended on who that person was. That's right. Young sect master knows it all too well. After comparison on senior sister Murong and junior sister Bai, the former's ability lacks the latter by a huge notch, not to mention that junior sister Bai is a genius armament master who even president who admires, and she's so beautiful. It's no wonder that young sect master couldn't help but be touched by her. Really envy junior sister Bai. She has everything, and even a man like young sect master who is faithful to her. These discussions, which were filled with envy, were loud, as they didn't conceal their volumes. That was because everyone felt it right from the bottoms of their hearts that Li Moying and Huang Yueli were a match made in heaven, plus the two of them had already left the public square, so they didn't need to hide what they were thinking of in their minds. No one noticed that underneath a big tree, not too far away, laid Murong Fei, who had just regained consciousness. After she was injured by Fong shouting earlier, as her injury was too serious, she couldn't be moved too vigorously, hence the doctors moved her carefully below the tree shade. Whoever knew that she had just woken up to see Huang Yueli being beaten by Fong shouting till she was covered in blood and was escaping everywhere in a disheveled state. Murong Fei almost laughed out loudly, forgetting all the pain on her body as she hurriedly turned around to ask Li Lingchuan, who hurried over to take care of her. "What's going on?" "Byra Oli, that little slut. How did she run up the arena stage?" Li Lingchuan had assumed that Huang Yueli would be defeated without any doubt, as he couldn't help but laugh. Heaven knows. Why on earth would she seek death for herself? He narrated the scene where Huang Yueli jumped out to challenge Fong shouting, and the both of them exchanged glances as they burst out laughing, sitting at one corner waiting for Huang Yueli to be beaten till she was either dead or crippled. For this, Murong Fei didn't even hate Fong shouting that much, as she was hoping that he would injure that little slut to even more miserable state. The best would be if he could kill her directly, then he would become her, Murong Fei's benefactor. In the end, even before she could finish laughing, she saw the clouds change, and the situation on the arena underwent a reverse twist in a blink of an eye. Huang Yueli actually advanced just before the battle on the arena stage, even breaking out in an unimaginable powerful ability, causing Fong shouting to be sent flying down the stage. Murong Fei's face instantly turned green. You can also listen on. She simply couldn't understand why under the heavens would such a fascinating thing even occur. Murong Fei thought that she was hallucinating due to her serious injury, but the events after that and the crowd's response verified that all this had really happened. After she realized this, Murong Fei was entirely on the verge of breaking down. She simply could not accept the fact that the little vixen whom she had looked down upon was not only an armament master with outstanding talent. Moreover, she had such abnormal innate talent and ability in the way of cultivation, which was even enough to match Li Moying. How could that be possible? Why did things turn out to be like this? Obviously, she was the woman who was most compatible with eldest senior brother. That little slut should be someone whom her eldest senior brother was fooling around with and completely wasn't worthy of eldest senior brother. Why had she turned into this kind of talent? What made Murong Fei even unable to accept was that because of Huang Yueli's outstanding talent, after she represented Celestial Light Sect to obtain the ultimate victory at the arena tournament, everyone treated her as the person who had rendered outstanding service to save Celestial Light Sect, as everyone held her in high respect, praising her nonstop. It was not only those ordinary young disciples, even the sect's various elders, and including her own father Moronga, were filled with pride as each and every one of them praised Huang Yueli to the skies. Murong Fei was so upset as her jealous emotions was like a poisonous snake, repeatedly nibbling at her heart. All these should originally have been hers. It should have been her who was Celestial Light Sect's savior, and she should rightfully be the arena champion, the person whom was adored and respected by all. Why had it become that little slut? Murong Fei totally did not reflect on the fact that she herself did not have the ability, but on the contrary, she felt that it was Huang Yueli who stole everything away from her. This wasn't the most infuriating thing. Following this, Li Moying even went down the stage on his own accord and extremely gently carried Huang Yueli. Then he even kissed her on the spot, and the both of them totally had no qualms on displaying their love publicly for a short while before they left under the crowd's envious glances. The crowd's reaction was the thing which truly made Murong Fei almost fainted from anger. Everyone actually felt that that little slut and eldest senior brother were very compatible, to the fact that some of them directly said it outright, that she Murong Fei couldn't be compared to Huang Yueli, so she couldn't make Li Moying fall for her. These words totally struck Murong Fei's sore foot like a resounding slap that was viciously slapped on her face on the spot. Actually, she had already realized this from the inner depths of her heart, that Huang Yueli's ability was extraordinary, and she was indeed much more powerful than her. It was exactly because of this which made her totally unable to accept it. She had always had a good opinion of herself, feeling that there was no young lady in South Sky region who could match up to her. Even if Huang Yueli snatched away Li Moying, it was all because she was shameless. How would Murong Fei ever admit that she was inferior to Huang Yueli? The more Murong Fei thought, the more infuriated she got as she couldn't help but turn back and stared fiercely at Li Lingchuan, who was behind her. "It's all because of you. Weren't you saying before the match that this time round, I'd be the one who is in the limelight and can make eldest senior brother regret not getting engaged with me? But now?" Li Lingchuan's expression wasn't pretty as well, because Murong Fei had totally vented her anger onto him. "You have the cheek to blame me for this? What I obviously said was for you to gain victory on the arena stage, obtaining the status as arena champion to get the 70% quota for Celestial Light Sect. Only in this way, eldest senior brother would be able to see your ability. But in the end, how would I know that you actually couldn't win Fong Xiaoning? You can also listen on." Murong Fei hadn't expected that even Li Lingchuan would criticize her, as her embarrassment instantly turned into fury. "What right do you have to say that of me? The last tournament we had with Green Cloud Sect, you also couldn't win Lung Yifeng and had to rely on eldest senior brother to confront the enemy personally? Green Cloud Sect's practitioners' total ability originally are much higher than our Celestial Light Sect. It's not as if you didn't know about this." Li Lingchuan was struck right on the sore point in his heart as his expression sunk gloomier. In the last tournament, he had finally waited for Li Moying's absence and thought that he would be able to hold his fort in the tournament, standing out in the limelight. In the end, he was defeated by Lung Yifeng and lost miserably. It was Li Moying who managed to rush back in time to save the losing battle. The situation then was exactly the same as today. Only the main characters had changed into Huang Yueli and Murong Fei. Recalling this, he forced himself to suppress his anger. He wanted to steal the position of young sect master from Li Moying's hands, and because of this, Murong Fei was the best cooperating partner whom he could not afford to offend. He could not break the alliance between them just because of a moment of fury. All right, it's useless to say all these now. The fact is he didn't win Fong Xiaoning, but it was by Ruoli who defeated him instead, becoming the ultimate arena champion. The plans we had previously were all established on the basis that you had obtained the arena champion, so it's of no use now. Murong Fei said hatefully, "It's all that wretched lass's fault. She is merely an opportunist. If I knew that Fong Xiaoning's cultivation would drop after 2 hours, I would have also used the delay tactic, then the person who won would have been me." Li Yingchuan couldn't help but look askance at her. Murong Fei made it sound so easy. Escape? Where could she have escaped to? How could she escape? 6th-stage realm 2nd level versus 6th-stage realm 7th level. That was a difference of 5 small realms. The disparity in terms of speed was already extremely too obvious. If it wasn't for Huang Yueli's phantom movements and profound skill, she totally could not last for an entire 2 hours. But he didn't expose her, as he said. Let's not mention the things which had already passed. Although this plan failed, we can still think of other ways which could absolutely separate the both of them. Murong Fei heard that, and a spark of joy flashed past her eyes. "Oh? What idea do you have again?" Li Lingchuan gave a cold laugh. "That's right. Although our plan failed today, but it's not as though we didn't reap any benefits. Today, I discovered that we may have a possible ally, and he should be the same as us, anticipating with great hope to separate eldest senior brother and Bai Ruoli. Who are you talking about? Morong Fei was totally muddled. Green Cloud Sect's eldest disciple, Lung Yifeng. Li Moying's courtyard. Huang Yueli was surrounded by a group of doctors as Li Moying sat by the side with a gloomy expression. Among those doctors present, there were not only Celestial Light Sect's doctors, there were some other doctors who were sent by President Hu and other various powerhouses, and each of them were all renowned divine doctors in South Sky region. Usually, if any of them were to give a consultation, the patients would beg earnestly for their help and also accepted a huge consultation fee before they were willing to help. But now all of them hurried over just to please young sect master Li and his little fiancée. But this fawning was absolutely nothing good at all. Celestial Light Sect's main doctor was helping Huang Yueli take her pulse while he wiped off the sweat off his forehead 3 times, with a trembling and fear look on his face, just short of kneeling onto the ground. Ever since he placed his fingers on Huang Yueli's slender wrist, he immediately sensed a huge amount of pressure. You can also listen on. Li Moying's glare was like 2 sharp blades as it repeatedly and endlessly swept across his body. Li Moying's coercion was so powerful, and doctors were the same as armament masters, where most of them were not skilled in cultivation. With his coercion, the doctors were all trembling from shock, as all of them went into a daze and used a long time, yet still unable to give a precise diagnosis. This in Li Moying's eyes made him extremely dissatisfied. Dr. Ling, how is my Lier's condition? After such a long time of diagnosis, there's still no conclusion? Li Moying's voice was biting cold, and that gaze seemed as though he couldn't wait to chop off Dr. Ling's hand which had touched Huang Yueli's wrist. Huang Yueli thought it was very funny and was full of sympathy for Dr. Ling as she butted in. All right, stop being overly anxious. I said earlier that there's nothing wrong with me. I merely lost a bit too much blood and overexhausted my profound energy, which was why I fell into a coma. So I'd probably recover after recuperating for a few days. Li Moying gave her a repulsive stare. I didn't ask you. He turned towards Dr. Ling. What's the result of the diagnosis? Dr. Ling immediately retracted his hand and at the same time wiped his sweat for the 4th time as he answered in fear and trepidation. Reporting to young sect master. Just as what Miss Bai said, she merely overexhausted herself too much, which was why she went into a coma. When Huang Yueli heard that, she tugged Li Moying's sleeve as she raised her little chin, speaking a low voice. I said this right. You're making a fuss over nothing. Li Moying totally ignored her as he continued to look at Dr. Ling. Just this conclusion, and you needed to diagnose for such a long time? Huang Yueli looked up into the sky, speechlessly. From these words, he said it as though the doctor intentionally took advantage of her. But she was the Demon King's fiancée. Who dared to do so? Dr. Ling hurriedly replied. But Miss Bai's exhaustion isn't quite the same. She wouldn't be able to recover after a few days so quickly. She had suffered a huge loss in blood and profound energy, so she must use a large quantity of rare treasures to refine into medicinal pill and take it continuously. Furthermore, it's best that she lay down in bed for the next 2 months and must take note not to cross hands with anyone. Huang Yueli interrupted him. It's not that serious, okay? This little injury needs 2 months to recover? How could that be possible? Moreover, isn't the ancient mystic region going to be opened in slightly after a month and amp, GT? How can I stay in bed for 2 months? Dr. Ling hurriedly continued. I also know that based on Miss Bai's ability and innate talent, you definitely want to go to the ancient mystic region, but the after effects of profound energy exhaustion may be a huge matter. If you don't recuperate properly, it may affect your meridians and dantian and will easily lead to chi deviation when you cultivate in future. So please don't think lightly of this condition. But Huang Yueli wanted to say something else, but was stared at by Li Moying's cold glare. Not allowed to speak. Today you're so disobedient. I haven't even sorted you out yet. You dare to not listen to the doctor's advice? Huang Yueli pouted as she didn't want to argue with Li Moying, but she turned around and used a threatening look at Dr. Ling, wanting him to change his words. The sweat on Dr. Ling's forehead started to drip down uncontrollably. This time he didn't even dare to use his hand to wipe it off. Helping Miss by do a consultation was really an extraordinary tough job. First of all, young sect master didn't even want to let him help her do a checkup, and even just taking her pulse on her wrist rendered a death stare. Now Miss by even used such a vicious gaze to look at him. He didn't manage to please any side at all. This young couple was simply too difficult to please? Dr. Ling hurriedly replied. Miss Bai is still young, and her underlying condition is good, so perhaps it might be possible for her to recover quickly. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli immediately waved the chicken feather as a token of authority as she turned back and told Li Moying, "See, Dr. Ling said that I'm still young and my condition is good, so I definitely recover very quickly." Li Moying's brows rose. "Lear, do you feel that my age is catching up, so there's a problem with my hearing?" Dr. Ling obviously said, "Maybe and not definitely. Don't use your small intellect on your husband. That's useless." Huang Yueli was exposed on the spot, but she didn't feel embarrassed at all as she rolled her eyes at him and mumbled softly, "What husband? We are not even married yet." Dr. Ling saw through that they were exchanging sweet nothings, so he hurriedly added, "I will go prescribe some medicinal pills for Miss Bai, and once it's successfully refined, I'll send it over to Miss Bai immediately. I'll be excused." "Amen." Li Moying nodded his head. Dr. Ling slipped away immediately as though his feet were smeared with oil. This was simply too terrifying. A man with such a cold character like young sect master actually said such mushy stuff to Miss Bai, which made Dr. Ling's goosebumps all fell onto the ground. If he didn't slip away quickly, he would probably be disgusted to death. The minute Dr. Ling left, Li Moying immediately walked over, putting his hand on Huang Yueli's shoulder and pushing her onto the bed. "All right, you've been tired for the entire day, so it's time to get some rest." "Aya, wait a minute." Huang Yueli nudged her shoulder as she attempted to escape from the evil force's coercion. But Li Moying's strength was very powerful, and with just two hands gently pushing on her shoulder without even using any strength, it rendered her totally immovable. He frowned as he looked at his little fox wriggling like a caterpillar. "All right, can you stop moving? Don't you feel pain when you move in this way and rub against your wounds?" Earlier, before Dr. Ling entered, he used up all his self-restraint to help Huang Yueli apply medicine on her wounds. That entire bloody scar body made his heart wrenched in multiple folds of pain, wishing that he could drag Fong shouting out and chop him into 8 pieces. Huang Yueli said, "Since you know that I will feel pain, then just stop pressing on me. If you obediently sleep, then I naturally won't press down on you. But you're so disobedient, so I have to supervise you." Li Moying's brow rose as he said that. Huang Yueli couldn't help but give him a stare. "How could you be so overbearing? I ask you. Surely you won't force me to stay in bed for an entire 2 months, right? The ancient mystic region will be opening up in slightly over a month, and I've wasted so much effort to gain the quota, so I must enter. You're not allowed to stop me." When Li Moying heard that, his face sunk. "I know you want to enter, but if your body condition doesn't allow that, then I cannot possibly agree to let you take the risk. There are plenty of chances for experience training, but if you really hurt your body's fundamentals, by then no amount of rare treasures will be able to nurse your body back." Huang Yueli pouted. "What, you're not allowed to leave me and go to the mystic region alone?" Li Moying continued. "What are you thinking of? How could I possibly leave you to go on an experience training alone? If you really are not able to recuperate, then I will stay behind in Celestial Light, sect with you, to recuperate. Otherwise, how can I rest my heart?" Huang Yueli went into a short blank, and following that her eyes turned wide with disbelief. She said those earlier purely because she was being arrogant and had mainly wanted to see Li Moying's vexed look. In actual fact, she had no intention to not allow him to go to the mystic region. In the end, she had not expected that this man actually planned in advance that if things didn't go well, he would give up the chance to enter the ancient mystic region like her, staying behind to accompany her. You can also listen on. In actual fact, in a place like South Sky region, the amount of resources which Li Moying was able to obtain as compared to his past life was really too little. Moreover, he needed to revert back to his past life's cultivation quickly, or even surpassing his past life. In this way, the chance to enter the mystic region was already an extremely rare thing, and it was extremely useful for him to raise his cultivation, so he really shouldn't miss it. But because of her, he didn't hesitate in giving it up. Huang Yuli bit on her lips as a sour feeling arose in her heart. This man was always like this, no matter if it was in their past lives or now. He would forever place her in first place, willing to give in to her. But it was exactly because of this which was why she must absolutely get well soon. She absolutely cannot drag Li Moying down. Li Moying saw her dazed look and seemingly red eyes as he anxiously questioned, "Lyra, what's the matter? Had your wound split open again? Quick, let me take a look." Huang Yueli saw a light in her mind and suddenly recalled something. She stretched out her arm and grabbed Li Moying's shirt in front of his chest as she said, "I remember now. I have a way to get well immediately. Probably don't even need a month. Just 10 days, and I'd be able to completely recover. 10 days. Li Moying totally didn't believe in her. "All right, there. I know you still want to go to the ancient mystic region, and I promise that I will bring you to other places for experience training, so don't be so stubborn. I'm not joking with you. Let me go first." Huang Yueli gave him a stare. His little fox's glare was too vicious, so Li Moying had no choice but to obediently let go of his hand to see what she was up to. Huang Yueli's right hand waved, and right in the middle of the bedroom appeared a super large bathtub. Li Moying was stunned, as he didn't expect to see this. "What is this? Don't tell me. You want to take another medicated bath?" Huang Yueli nodded. "Almost there. Take a look at what's in the bathtub." Li Moying heard her words and gave her an astonished look as he walked to the side of the bathtub. The bathtub was filled with pungent red sticky liquid as an intense blood stench whiffed over. At this moment, he was able to sense clearly that this red liquid contained an extremely powerful and dangerous energy. This kind of presence even brought along an indescribable pressure, capturing one's soul. If it was someone with weaker determination, that person would probably not be able to stand firm by the side. Li Moying couldn't help but creased his forehead. "What is this?" Huang Yueli gave a sweet smile as she showed her sharp little fangs. "Do you remember that I told you previously about the reward which I obtained in the Inheritance Tower, which was to soak in the Phoenix blood pool? Before I left, I took a little Phoenix blood away, conveniently." Li Moying was speechless. This is a little. An ancient spiritual beast's bloodline was long extinct in Soaring Heaven's continent. But many of the strongest powerhouses in the continent still reared in groups of 9 great magical beasts to collect their blood as a kind of medicinal ingredient to aid their disciples under their wings to advance. But even for those disciples who had contributed heavily towards the sect, the amount of reward they could obtain each time was generally a small bottle. What Huang Yueli took out was the extremely powerful ancient spiritual beast's phoenix blood. She actually took out such a big tub like this? Huang Yueli laughed dryly. "That's right, just a little. That phoenix blood is very large. Although I've already filled all of the containers I have in my space, filling up several tubs, but I'd at most taken less than 10%. You can also listen on." The corner of Li Moying's lips twitched. How many pails? She really was his lieur, so she had conveniently taken away not just this little bit. He really underestimated her. Huang Yueli continued speaking. "Last time when I was in the Inheritance Tower, I'd suffered from quite an amount of injuries at the last stage, but perhaps due to the fact that I'm a part of the sacred Phoenix race. After entering the Phoenix blood pool, the multiple injuries on my body from external to internal all speedily recovered. It didn't even leave a little scar, and further, I even advanced." Li Moying heard that and evidently heaved a sigh of relief. "I've never expected that you have such good stuff with you. Since that's the case, hurry up and soak in it. If it's really effective, then I can rest my heart at ease a little." Huang Yueli nodded as she used her arm to prop herself against the bed, wanting to get onto the ground. Li Moying shot up like an arrow as he carried her up from her waist into the bathtub. Huang Yueli used her hand to push his chest. You can leave now. I can manage these few steps on my own, no problem at all." Li Moying's feet didn't even nudge as he stared at her intently. "I'm still worried. You are so weak now. What will happen if you faint in the bathtub, which is very dangerous as well? All right, stop being why. Which part of you haven't I seen before? Have you forgotten that earlier when I applied the medicine for you, I've already seen everything? Ah? Huang Yueli's eyes widened in disbelief, as she didn't expect Li Moying to say such shameless words out. However, Li Moying wasn't just saying only, he directly took action. His slender, long fingers went round her waist as he undid her loose waist belt, attempting to take off her inner shirt directly. Earlier, for the convenience of applying medication, Huang Yueli had taken everything off, including her undergarments, so now she didn't wear anything on the inside, as she instantly felt the man's scorching large hand pasted on her naked skin around her abdomen, causing her to shiver slightly as that area which he touched started to burn up. Hey, you can't do this. Earlier, when you were applying medication, I had already fainted, otherwise I wouldn't allow you to do as you wished. Quickly go away. Where are you looking at? Not allowed to look? I won't allow you to look. Huang Yueli cried out, utterly discomfited. If not for the fact that her body was weak, she would probably have jumped up to hit him long ago. Li Moying's vision swept across her bosom area and propped up his chin while in deep thoughts. Earlier, I didn't take a close look. From the looks of it, it seems that you've grown quite a bit. Looks like I've taken quite good care of you. If she is a little more well-fed, it's almost time to prepare for a bite. Huang Yueli looked at his gaze, as she simply wanted to murder someone. Li Moying then lowered his head as he laughed softly. Such good spirits. Your wounds really don't hurt anymore? Relax. I'm not some beast, so how would I bear to lay my hands on an injured woman? Obediently, he soaked in the bath. I'm really worried about you, so just let me stay here. I won't touch you. Huang Yueli had already been stripped naked by him, and she curled up entirely in his arms without even raising her head as she cursed him more than 10 times silently. Hearing that, she hurriedly replied, "Make sure you keep your words." Li Moying shook his head as he laughed. "Keep? Of course I'll keep my words. Well, had I ever lied to you?" "That's very hard to say. You've lied to me so many times already," Huang Yueli mumbled. This man was usually very reliable, but every single time he wanted to get fresh with her, the things he said were no different from far at all. You can also listen on. The current situation really made her unable to rest her heart at all. Although she thought in that way, she still obediently hugged Li Moying's neck, allowing him to place her inside the bathtub. Huang Yueli just sat inside when she immediately moaned. The wounds on her body haven't healed yet, and the energy contained in Phoenix blood was too strong, hence it stung her wounds, making her feel a sharp pain, crying out unbearably. Li Moying immediately rushed over nervously. "Lur, are you all right?" Huang Yueli clenched her teeth hard as she tried her best to turn over to give him a glance. "I'm all right. It'd be better after a little while. Don't be too worried." Li Moying looked at her tightly creased brows as he felt an instant heartache, but he also knew that this was unavoidable, so he could only try his best to control himself. Luckily, this torturous stage, which tormented the duo, didn't last for too long, and after a while, Huang Yueli's wounds started to heal at a speed which was visible to the naked eye. After 2 hours later, those bloody wounds had all closed up, and although it wasn't able to completely seal up, but they could tell that it wouldn't take much longer for her to be healed completely. This made Li Moying finally rest his heart down. It really was an ancient spiritual beast blood, using it luxuriously for a bath soak, and its effect was indeed extraordinary. Huang Yueli was soaked in the bathtub, and initially she was mostly in a daze, as all her determination had been used to resist against the pain from her body. But as the wounds started to get better, she didn't feel that unbearable slowly and gradually open her eyes. The minute she opened her eyes, she was so shocked that she jumped up, because Li Moying was actually sitting by the bathtub with his eyes staring at her fixatedly. Although she knew that the luster of the phoenix blood was dark red, and Li Moying actually couldn't see her body while she was soaked in it, hence he could only instinctively see something. But being stared at by her own fiancé still made her cheeks blush a shade of red. "Amen that." Moying, she opened her mouth as she whispered. Li Moying immediately leaned nearer. "Lear, what's the matter? Are you feeling better now?" Huang Yueli nodded. "My wounds seem to have closed up, and it's not that painful already." Li Moying heaved a sigh of relief. That's great. You can soak a little longer because the energy in phoenix blood is extremely abundant. Moreover, it is compatible with your attribute, so if you soak in it long enough, it will also repair the damage in your meridians. Huang Yueli nodded. I know, that's right. She suddenly thought of something. Do you want to take a soak as well? That time when I took the phoenix blood out, it was so that you and little Wang Kai could have a soak in it, but as there were plenty of matters happening later on, I forgot about it. She hadn't completed her sentence when she saw Li Moying's eyes lit up. Lear, are you inviting me to have a lover's bath? Lo, lover's bath? Huang Yueli was flabbergasted as she went into a daze and then furiously stared at him. Love your head. You go over to that tub to soak. Saying that, her right hand waved and a bathtub appeared in the room. It was filled completely with phoenix blood as well, but this bathtub was obviously much smaller than hers by 2 sizes. Li Moying turned his head and took a look as he couldn't help but frowned. This small? Based on his tall figure, this bathtub really seemed a little too small. If he sat in it, he probably needed to curl up entirely. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli took a look and realized that as she said helplessly, this my space only had that little tub, but I have several tubs here. Why don't you go look for a bigger tub and pour 2 tubs of phoenix blood into it, then you can wash yourself with it. Li Moying's lips curled. Why so troublesome? He gave a devilish smile, a little different from usual, but still had the same handsome and tempting look which made Huang Yueli's heart skip a beat as her senses were slightly off. By the time she regained her senses, she discovered that Li Moying had deftly stripped all his clothes off. Furthermore, he wasn't shy at all as he totally had nothing on him and specially walked over calmly. The minute Huang Yueli opened her eyes, she happened to see the spot where she wasn't supposed to be looking at. Ew. How could you suddenly remove all your clothes? Pervert. Shameless. Huang Yueli flusteredly covered her eyes, feeling her own face burning up. Li Moying innocently replied, Wasn't it you who asked me to have a soak? Don't tell me you want me to have a soak with my clothes on. How unbearable would that be? But you can tell me first. Since you said I have a soak, then isn't the next step to take off the clothes? Such an obvious matter, and I still need to inform you beforehand? Li Moying put on an innocent look. Huang Yueli was stuffed. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew this man's true character, just looking at the expression on his face, one would really thought that he was a just good male who was framed. He was really so bad that he was shedding dregs. Huang Yueli was extremely melancholic as she hurriedly replied, All right, since your clothes have already been taken off, then hurriedly go into the bathtub to soak. Why are you wasting time? She was thinking that if Li Moying went into the bathtub, then whatever shouldn't be seen would not be seen, then the both of them would be able to have a good chat. Otherwise, she would probably get a sty from seeing something that she shouldn't be looking at. Although she said that, but in Huang Yueli's mind, the earlier scene kept popping out. Li Moying's figure was tall and robust. From his broad shoulder, one could tell that it was filled with strength. His sturdy muscle lines were perfect and flawless, and following that pectoral muscles all the way down. Huang Yueli couldn't help but covered her face once again. What was it that she saw earlier? She actually remembered it so clearly? Could it be that she was in her bones? Li Moying gave a response and stopped right there. Huang Yueli was just feeling bewildered when she suddenly felt the bathtub which she was sitting in shook gently. Subsequently, the contents in the bathtub suddenly rose upwards, and with a splash, some water spilled onto the ground. A warm body squeezed in and plastered tightly to her back. Huang Yueli suddenly turned her head as she saw the man had already entered the bath, and that chest, which made her full of imagination, suddenly appeared right in front of her eyes. Li Moying dash! Huang Yueli couldn't help but screamed. Who allowed you to enter? Li Moying laughed softly. Wasn't it you who asked me to hurry and come over to take a soak earlier? I'm so obedient, listening to whatever you tell me. Why are you still angry? Huang Yueli was so infuriated that she almost threw up blood. Don't you understand human language? I asked you to go over to that bathtub for a soak. Li Moying replied, How would I know what you want me to do? You didn't make it clear earlier, and now that I've already jumped in. Can you don't be so picky? Moreover, that bathtub is so small. Don't you feel sorry for me? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli retorted angrily. That bathtub is too small. Then if we squeeze two people in this bathtub, it will definitely be even tighter. You still insist on squeezing in. Li Moying put on an extremely pure expression. Two people together is indeed a little too squeezy, but if we adjust our positions, we can still sit properly. Huang Yueli had not responded in time when her slender waist was locked by his hand. Li Moying used his strength and lifted her slender body gently as he adjusted position so that she could sit on his leg. Huang Yueli stumbled and directly fell into his arms, tightly stuck together with him. If it was usual times, just based on the intimate relationship which they shared, this really wasn't much, but the both of them had nothing on them. You big pervert, quickly let go of me. Huang Yueli tried her best to wiggle around, trying to get off from his body. Li Moying couldn't help but moaned. If you don't want any accidents to happen, the best would be for you not to move. What? Huang Yueli sensitively sensed that something was amiss, but couldn't totally understand what he meant. Li Moying looked at her pure expression as he gave a bitter laugh in his heart, feeling that he had really moved a rock to smash his own feet. Not only did he not manage to flirt with his own fiancée, instead he started to burn up in passion. But unfortunately, he could not possibly really do anything to the injured her. Li Moying held her slender waist as she nudged towards the other side, at the same time shifting himself a distance away. Heaven knew that his body reaction indeed was unconcealable, and if it wasn't for rationality, which reminded him that his Lear had suffered heavy injuries today and couldn't take any more torment, he would probably have turned into a wolf, pouncing towards her. Really, damn it. Li Moying's tone was stiff. All right, stop fooling around and cultivate properly. This phoenix blood's energy is indeed powerful, so don't waste it. Huang Yueli didn't expect this man to have a change of expression. Earlier, he still had a lustful expression, and the next moment, he actually turned so solemn and just, furthermore, pushing her aside. Was it because she treated him too fiercely, causing this narrow-minded man to throw his pampered, arrogant tantrum? But what right did he have to be angry? He was obviously at fault. Huang Yueli rose her eyes as she stole a look at Li Moying, sizing him up from left, right, up and down. Li Moying shut his eyes, not daring to look at her delicate, pretty face, but through his soul trace, he was still able to clearly sense that his Lear had been staring at him. Worried that his little lass could tell that something was wrong with him, Li Moying hurriedly said, "What's the matter? Why do you keep staring at me? Are you really having ulterior motives towards me?" "I too? Ulterior motives?" Huang Yueli's mouth fell agape. Li Moying smiled lightly. "Why? Really coveting my body? No problem. Go ahead and pounce up on me. You know I would never reject you. Scram, hasn't anyone told you that you're a real narcissistic?" Huang Yueli exploded once again. Li Moying couldn't tolerate it and wanted to laugh as that burning passionate desire in his heart had subsided by quite a bit. His Lear was simply too cute. Usually she always acted a black-bellied and powerful in front of outsiders, but in front of him, she was so childish and adorable. He lowered his voice. "Since you have no designs, then I can rest my heart, so let's grab hold of time quickly to cultivate. Do I need you tell me that?" She could tell that Li Moying was not angry, so Huang Yueli immediately turned into her pampered, arrogant self. You can also listen on. She nudged to the side once more as she stayed far away from Li Moying before shutting her eyes and fully concentrating on cultivating. Li Moying sensed that the young lady's breathing became stable and opened his eyes, turning his head to look at her. That fair complexion was filled with a shade of red because of the heat, and his heart started to jolt again. Li Moying hurriedly shut his eyes and held his breathing, forcing himself to forget what he had seen earlier, but alas, his reaps were minimal. It took a long period of time before he successfully entered the state of cultivation. He got to admit that the energy contained in phoenix blood was extremely powerful. The next morning, Huang Yueli's injuries had recovered by a large majority. Although it was still a distance from a full recovery, at least all the wounds had closed up and the swelling had gone down by quite a bit. whereas Li Moying seemed to have slight signs of advancement. After Huang Yueli realized this, she looked at her own fiancé's jealousy. This man, his innate talent was just too good, wasn't it? He was already at 7th stage realm 3rd level, and just soaking an entire night in Phoenix blood made him want to advance again. He wasn't from Sacred Phoenix race, and his main attribute wasn't fire, but his absorption towards energy was so powerful. Li Moying turned back and threw her a puzzled look. "What's the matter? Why are you staring at me like that?" Huang Yueli raised her chin bluntly. "Next time you're not allowed to take a soak with me. In order to prevent you from sneaking an attack on me, I've already let Mo.E find a super large bathtub for you, and it's placed in the study room, so you can go there and take a soak." Li Moying immediately put on a pretentious, pitiful look. "Ah? Why? This is obviously my bedroom too. Why can't I use it?" Huang Yueli replied, "What you said is reasonable. If not, you can just sleep in the study room from now on. So in this way you won't feel that it's not normal." Don't. I'll go all right." Li Moying was helpless, as he could only raise both his hands and feet to surrender. Although he was not able to see the beautiful view of the beauty emerging from the bath, but it was much better than being swept out of the door by his fiancée. Only, Mo.E, this fellow really was too blind. Did he or did he not know who the master of this house was? He actually dared to help Huang Yueli search for a bathtub? He was really in need of a lesson. Li Moying spent every day accompanying his fiancée, cultivating, soaking, refining armaments, and was so indulged in the pleasure that he forgot his duties, too lazy to even leave his residence. Moronda had sent someone over to look for him several times, to bring Huang Yueli over to Celestial Light Sect's higher management meeting, but were all rejected by him. Now, that 70% quota was already in their hands. For Celestial Light Sect to hold a meeting at this point of time, it was definitely to inquire on how to distribute the quota. This was something which was linked to every wing's benefits, and if it were ordinary elders, they simply could not be absent from this meeting. But Li Moying totally wasn't interested at all. Anyway, his position was up there in the sect, and moreover this quota was one entirely based on his leader, so the quota that belonged to him would not be very little. As for how the others got it, what did it have to do with him? This kind of lousy matter regarding fighting for benefits was something which he was most uninterested in. How on earth was it able to be as interesting as compared to teasing his little fiancée? But even though Li Moying and Huang Yueli didn't attend the meeting, Luo Jiyun came knocking on the door on pretext of visiting Huang Yueli, and even brought along quite a number of latest news in the sect. "Eldest senior brother, sister-in-law, luckily you didn't join in that meeting to distribute the quote. You don't know that on that day at the meeting, Elder Han and Elder Wang had completely torn their faces over a few quota. You can also listen on." Luo Jiyun gave a vivid and lifelike description. The two elders are all 300 to 400 years old, but they were still banging tables as they quarreled, which was simply an eye-opener. According to the usual conditions, it wasn't Luo Jiyun's turn to attend such a kind of management meeting, but as he displayed outstanding performance at the arena tournament, plus Li Moying personally assigned him to a spokesman, hence he had the chance to attend the meeting. Li Moying gave a cold snort. These old men had always been like that, but they always acted prim and proper in front of ordinary disciples only. Huang Yueli was rather curious. Then what was the final conclusion of the meeting? How was the quota allocated eventually? Luo Jiyun replied, "The elders each stood their own grounds, assuming that they had contributed the greatest to the sect, and all wanted a few more places. Moreover, they mentioned that if they didn't obtain a satisfactory amount of quota, they would reject giving a hand at the time when the mystic region opens up. By then, everyone would not be able to go. Simply too much." He felt indignant at the injustice as he spoke, whereas Huang Yueli and Li Moying were totally used to this. So what if they were 9th stage rel practitioners? So what if they were elders from a large sect? In front of benefits, no one would possibly give way as their ugly faces showed, so they were long used to seeing this. Luo Jiyun continued. Luckily, Master finally thought of an idea. Other than the 10 quota, which eldest senior brother requested for and must be given, the remaining 60 quota must be given according to certification of ability. Which means, the sect will hold a tournament 7 days later. All of the disciples in the sect, regardless of whether they are direct disciples or not, are all allowed to take part. However, only those placed in the top 60 will be allowed to get a quota to enter the ancient mystic region. Huang Yueli laughed as she said, Sect Master Morong is after all someone who had been a sect master for many years. He indeed has ideas, so in this way, the other elders have no way to oppose, right? Isn't that so? Elder Wang's disciples under his wings aren't really that strong in terms of ability, so this proposal is very disadvantageous to him. But he simply couldn't find any reason to oppose, so he was so infuriated that he left directly on the spot. Seeing the both of them in such speculative talk, Li Moying was watching from the side as he uncontrollably felt a little jealous. He stretched out his hand and locked onto Huang Yueli's arm as he carried her from the back. All these are basically rubbish on the scramble for power and profit, so there's nothing much to listen to. Saying that, he turned his head around to look at Luo Jian. Fifth junior brother, from what you narrated, it means that you must take part in the tournament 7 days later, so why are you not returning back to cultivate? Luo Jian didn't realize that Li Moying was jealous, as he gave a complacent laugh when he heard what Li Moying said. Eldest senior brother, it's not as if you don't know. My current ability among the younger generation of the sect is of no problem to get into the top 10. How could I not get a quota for myself? Li Moying's face turned darker. Then what will happen after you enter the mystic region? The ancient mystic region is filled with danger, and just based on your 5th stage realm cultivation, you can't even defeat your sister-in-law. What happens if you meet with danger? Luo Jiyun then detected that Li Moying's tone wasn't quite right. Huang Yueli burst out in laughter. Junior brother Luo, thank you for telling us these today. I have something on with your eldest senior brother, so do on back first. If there's any new news, remember to let us know. Luo Jiyun looked at Li Moying's hand, which was clasped tightly on Huang Yueli's waist, then looked at his evidently unpleasant expression when he finally got it. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead as he gave an agreeable response, and immediately slipped away. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli looked at his fleeing figure as she found it even funnier. Li Moying gave a cold harumph. At last he's gone, at least he knows what's good for him. Huang Yueli shook her head helplessly. You don't need to act in this way, right? Junior brother Luo merely just spoke a few sentences to me. What's there to talk about? Those matters which he mentioned are of no value at all. Li Moying was filled with disdain for him. Huang Yueli curiously asked, the matter regarding the quota allocation. You're really not going to care about it? Then will you still go watch the tournament, which will be held 7 days later? Li Moying gave her a strange look. What's there to see? Don't tell me you wish to go. Huang Yueli shook her head. Then that does it. Let's ignore those boring people and continue with our bath. Can we soak together today? Scram, Fat Hope. 7 days later. Celestial Light Sect's internal tournament started as scheduled. This tournament, to the sect's inner disciples, was an absolutely great chance for them to change their lives. Originally based on their statuses, it was impossible for them to fight for a quota with the direct disciples, so such a good thing like entering the mystic region would never be their turn. However, this round, because of Huang Yueli who had fought for more quota, they were allowed to have a chance to take part in the tournament. Many of them were feeling grateful towards Huang Yueli, and in many Celestial Light sect disciples' eyes, Huang Yueli was the same as Li Moying, already becoming a legendary level character. Many of them knew that they could not possibly win at this tournament, but they still chose to take part in it. The main reason was hoping to catch a glimpse of the two of them. Unfortunately, what made them disappointed was that Li Moying and Huang Yueli both didn't appear at all. But this totally didn't affect the intensity of the tournament. On the stage, the battle progress was unstoppable as everyone wanted to grab hold of this once-in-a-lifetime chance, hence the battle was extremely intense. On the contrary, some powerful direct disciples didn't need to battle and they obtained the quota, hence they stayed by the side to watch the show without any pressure. Under the tree shade, Murong Fei swept her glances towards the high stage several rounds as she revealed a disappointed look. Eldest senior brother really didn't come. Li Lingchuan replied. So what if he came? Every time eldest senior brother appears, he would bring along his little fiancée, and now quite a number of people are fans of Miss Bai, so her reputation has already outshone yours. If they were to appear together, then that scene. You will definitely not be able to take it. Murong Fei was so angry that she bit her teeth, but was totally unable to say any words of rebuttal. That little slut. I'll show her sooner or later. What's the point of just cursing her? If you want to make her disappear, then you have to think of a complete plan. As Li Lingchuan was saying that, he suddenly saw a man dressed in white standing not too far away. His gaze suddenly flashed as he said to Murong Fei, "Third junior sister, earlier master seemed to have sent someone over to look for you." "Oh, was there? How come I didn't hear a thing?" Murong Fei asked in puzzlement. Li Lingchuan replied, "Earlier I heard a servant girl calling out for you. Quickly go take a look, perhaps it might be something urgent." Murong Fei frowned, but she didn't consider the fact that Li Lingchuan would lie to her, so she quickly left. After Li Lingchuan sent Murong Fei away, he walked towards that white-robed man. "Master Lung, long time no see. I not expected to meet you here today." Lung Yifeng stood alone under a tree, not too far away, as he was concentrating on the battle on stage. He wasn't Celestial Light's sect's disciple, so for him to return to his place, his motive was naturally not simple. You can also listen on. Lung Yifeng saw Li Lingchuan walking nearer, as he was extremely surprised. He had thought that his action of spying had caused Celestial Light's sect's displeasure, so he hastily tried to clear himself. "Master Li, long time no see, how have you been? Don't misunderstand. I happened to be passing by and coincidentally saw the tournament that your sect is holding. I'm preparing to leave now." This was called telling a lie with his eyes wide open. Green Cloud Sect's base was quite a distance away from Celestial Light Sect, and although there were quite a number of guards patrolling near the tournament grounds, Lung Yifeng was able to avoid all the guards perfectly while appearing at this place, which was absolutely not possible to be as simple as passing by. A clear-minded person knew it clearly that he was here to help Green Cloud Sect scout for the real situation. After all, after they enter the ancient mystic region, the victor of the tournament will become Green Cloud Sect's opponent. Li Lingchuan gave a smile, which didn't look quite like a smile as he replied, "Master Lung, I'm not here to chase you away, but here specially to wait for you. I have some personal matters which I wish to discuss with you." As one of the younger generation's top experts who was just beneath Li Moying, Li Lingchuan had long obtained a quota to enter the mystic region, so his motive here was to meet Lung Yifeng. "Oh." Lung Yifeng's brows rose in surprise. "Your Celestial Light Sect's talented disciple. What matter could you possibly have to discuss with me?" Li Lingchuan replied, "Let's move elsewhere to have a chat." Lung Yifeng nodded. The both of them walked to an even seclusive corner. Li Lingchuan then said, "Upright people don't speak secretly. Our motive for looking for you. I'm assuming that Master Lung has already guessed it. We have a common purpose, so after entering the ancient mystic region, we must cooperate properly." Lung Yifeng's heart jolted, but the words which came out of his mouth were as such. "What does masterly mean? Why is it that I don't understand you at all? We are both in different sects, so how is it possible that we have a common purpose?" Li Lingchuan took a look at their surroundings, and after verifying that no one was hiding in the darkness to eavesdrop, he finally brought his meaning out into the open. "Master Lung, do you want by Ruoli or not?" Lung Yifeng's body shook. He totally had not expected that his hidden thoughts was exposed in such a direct manner. He indeed wanted that exceptionally talented genius young lady. Furthermore, after witnessing her shocking performance on the arena stage that day, his heart desired her even more than ever, as that feeling was so intense that it was like a ball of fire, devouring and scorching at his chest. Only, the man behind Huang Yueli was simply too powerful. Furthermore, Huang Yueli totally treated his Lung family's authority with haughty contempt. That day she had directly rejected him, so that left Lung Yifeng with no more plans to execute. Moreover, he had been defeated by Li Moying in just one move several times. It was simply so embarrassing that he didn't even dare to talk about this. So, How is a celestial light sect disciple able to see through him? Lung Yifeng immediately denied. I don't understand what you're talking about. Bairuoli, isn't she a disciple of your celestial light sect? What does she have to do with me? Li Lingchuan looked at this instantly changing expression as it affirmed the guess in his heart. He spoke steadfastly. Actually, the performance which you showed on the arena stage that day already let many of us see that something was not quite right. Bairuoli was Li Moying's fiancée, but when Feng Xiaoning wanted to deal her with a deadly hand, you suddenly appeared to stop your own junior brother. Isn't that very strange? Logically speaking, if Bairuoli was either killed or crippled, my eldest senior brother would be despondent, but to you, it should be something which was worth celebrating over. You can also listen on. Lung Yifeng really didn't expect that his involuntary rashness that day actually allowed someone to see through his flaw. He thought that he had concealed it very well. Lung Yifeng refused to admit, I am doing this because of the friendship between our sects. If someone died on the arena, and the person who died is Li Moying's fiancé, then there would definitely be no way for our two sects to continue with the cooperation. Li Lingchuan plainly knew that he wouldn't easily admit to it, as he wasn't in a hurry as well. He said this in a straightforward manner. Master Lung, the graceful maiden is well suited as a spouse for the gentleman, so what's there to deny about? You don't need to guard me as though you're guarding against a thief. I'm here looking for you because I want to help you. Help me? Are you that kind-hearted? Lung Yifeng gave a cold laugh. Li Lingchuan replied, the lady you like is already engaged. Although it is disappointing, but after all, they're still not married, isn't it? If an accident were to happen to her fiancé while he was on experience training, a light flashed past Lung Yifeng's eyes as he finally raised his head to look at Li Lingchuan in the eye. The two exchanged glares and saw the ambition and schemes in each other's eyes. Lung Yifeng remained silent for a while, then laughed. Looks like Master Lung is after something big. That's not wrong either. Based on Master Lung's innate talent and potential, you are considered as a top-rated super talent in South Sky region. But unfortunately, having an abnormal senior brother like Li Moying, no matter how hard you try, it's impossible to surpass him. If I were in your shoes, I would be extremely melancholic. Li Lingchuan didn't deny, nor did he admit to it. He merely replied, So does that mean that Master Lung believes the sincerity that I have to cooperate with you? Lung Yifeng nodded as he replied, I understand your intention now, but if I were to help you deal with Li Moying, the advantage which you will get is huge. Not only will you get to replace him as Celestial Light Sect's young sect master to become the future sect master, you will also be able to marry sect Master Morong's daughter. As compared to that, I am at a major disadvantage. Li Lingchuan said disapprovingly, Master Lung, why try to sound me out? Whether I'm at a disadvantage or not, you know it very well. For a peerless, talented young lady like Bairuoli, she is a rare case, and even in the entire Sky Emperor City, there probably are not many around. Even if there are so many strong practitioners in Sky Emperor City, so when will it be your turn? You only have this one chance, and if you miss it, you'll regret it for life. Isn't that so? Obviously, everyone could tell that it was a rare sight to see a young lady with exceeding innate talent in both armament, refining, and cultivation. Even if Li Lingchuan had absolute disgust towards Huang Yueli because of Li Moying, but he had no choice but to admit that Huang Yueli's value was even much higher than Celestial Light Sect, the #1 sect in South Sky region. The person to gain the biggest reward from this transaction was still Lung Yifeng. Lung Yifeng saw that he was so clear-minded and didn't bother to be pretentious anymore, so he could only reply, All right, since we're going to cooperate, then let's bring out our sincerity. Actually, I originally intended to take action in the Mystic region, and I have a rough idea. Only there's a little problem which I have no way to solve. Oh, what problem is that? Li Lingchuan didn't expect the matter to be so smooth as he asked excitedly. Lung Yifeng continued. Actually, the ancient Mystic region, which we're going to enter this time, is an early historical remains left in Soaring Heavens continent, which was left by the Cloudy Qilin clan several thousands of years ago. It had been recorded in Green Cloud Sect's historical ancient records, and recently a few elders from the sect had finally decoded the contents after several hundred years of research, certifying the location of this ancient mystic region. You can also listen on. He paused and continued. The ancient records not only recorded the location of the ancient mystic region, furthermore, it also roughly recorded the situation in the mystic region. Li Lingchuan's eyes immediately lit up. In this case, you guys have the map of the mystic region? Lung Yifeng shook his head. It's not really considered as a map, and the historical ancient records aren't complete. Many contents are mutilated, and some are totally non-decodable, so we could only decode part of the contents. But it's more than enough to use it to deal with Li Moing. Lung Yifeng checked the surrounding as he lowered his voice even more. The ancient records stated a few extremely dangerous locations, and the most dangerous part of all is the area, which is right smack in the center of the mystic region, circumference of within 10 miles. It was rumored that in the several thousands of years, this ancient mystic region had been opened several times, and every single time someone entered the center region, there would always be no return, and so far, no one had successfully come out before. You're saying Li Lingchuan was also an intelligent person, so he immediately understood what he was trying to say. We can lure Li Moing over to that center region. Lung Yifeng nodded and replied, That's right. Li Lingchuan continued, while looking a little worried. This plan sounds feasible, but are you certain you're able to trap him? You've also seen it for yourself on my eldest senior brother's ability. Many things which are totally impossible for others, but to him, it's so easy. If this time round he's done it yet again, completing what other people couldn't complete to leave the center region safely. Then, the minute Li Moing went into a rage, there was no one who could take his wrath. Although Li Lingchuan was plotting behind him secretly, but when he thought about the consequences which could possibly happen after their plot falls through, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Lung Yifeng gave a cold snort. I really can't tell that your guts is this small, and you're still planning on becoming Celestial Light Sect's future sect master? As the saying goes, you won't be able to get the tiger cub if you don't enter the tiger den. You can't even take this amount of risk. Moreover, speaking for several thousands of years, among the number of talents who entered the center region, there is definitely someone who is more outstanding than Li Moing, but they also couldn't return back, isn't it? This is a mystic region which was left by a historical sacred clan. If it wasn't your Celestial Light Sect's array, how could it possibly not trap him? Li Lingchuan thought about it, and indeed found it logical, as he finally toughened his heart. All right, then we'll listen to your plan. How do you want me to coordinate with you? Lung Yifeng continued. This plan to me, the most difficult part is how to lure Li Moing over. After all, we're not of the same sect, and the minute we enter the mystic region, our relationship will then become the opposing team. Li Moing isn't an idiot, so how could he possibly not defend against me? When Li Lingchuan heard that, he immediately laughed. You want me to help lure him over? This is simple. Leave it all to me. As they were under the same wing, wasn't it a small issue which didn't require much effort to dig this hole for Li Moing? Saying that, he looked left and right before preparing to leave. This was Celestial Light Sect's internal tournament grounds, and as a disciple of Green Cloud Sect, it originally wasn't a place which he could stay for long. Li Lingchuan hurriedly called out to him. Mr. Lung, wait a moment. I have a request. What's the matter? Lung Yifeng frowned. Li Lingchuan continued. I need Murong Fei's help to lure Li Moing over. So I'll explain this entire matter to her, but please do not expose the contents of the deal between us to her. You can also listen on. When Lung Yifeng heard that, he was stunned. What do you mean? Li Lingchuan explained. You should be able to tell that my third junior sister openly admires Li Moing. If she were to find out that our common purpose is to get him killed, then she would absolutely not help us, so that was why he intentionally drove Murong Fei away when he saw Lung Yifeng before he approached him. Lung Yifeng understood the meaning behind as he immediately nodded a promise. Be assured, I know what to say. After the two of them derived a common understanding, the both of them parted ways and sneakily left. No one would have expected that the opposing Celestial Light sect and Green Cloud sect had two important figures who had secretly reached an agreement on an underhanded transaction. Very quickly, a month's time passed by. This day was the important day which Celestial Light sect and Green Cloud sect agreed to meet, to work together mutually to activate the ancient mystic region. 3 days ago, both large sects had assigned several flying ships with their elders and disciples who were going to enter the mystic region to the meeting point. Gathering at a dim swamp in between South Sky region and West Sky region's boundary. There weren't many resources which were of use and were extremely dangerous, so usually the number of people who neared this place was scarce. So there was practically no one who could have thought that this place hid an early historical remains which the ancient sacred clan left behind. At this juncture, Green Cloud sect didn't keep any more secrets. Under Murong does continuous urging, Chui Yuan introduced the situation in the mystic region in simple terms. This ancient mystic region was heard to be an early history which had been left behind by the great powerhouse Cloudy Chelan clan in the ancient times, hence its name as Cloudy Chelan Mystic Region. According to ancient records, Cloudy Chelan clan had left the soaring heavens continent under the pressure of the sacred phoenix race several thousands of years ago, as there were some treasures which they were unable to bring along with them. Hence they left it all in the mystic region, protecting it, and only using a special method would they be able to activate the mystic region. Several thousands of years ago, there was someone who followed according to the ancient records to open the Cloudy Chelan mystic region, but in the past 10,000 years, more than half of the contents of the ancient records had gone missing, resulting in no knowledge of this mystic region. This time round, us two sects will be working together to activate the Cloudy Chelan mystic region, so this is a huge feat for the past 10,000 years. It's worth commemorating. Fellows of Celestial Light sect who are able to join in this lucky chance are really having great luck. As Chui Yuan Shan spoke, he started to feel disgusted. The ones who had decoded the ancient records and found Cloudy Chelan mystic region were then Green Cloud sect. But the one who benefited the most was actually Celestial Light sect. 70% of the mystic region quota had been snatched away from him, which really made his head ache, liver ache, flesh ache, aching everywhere. Thinking of this, Chui Yuan Shan thought of the character who made Green Cloud sect suffer the most loss, Huang Yueli. If not for her sudden appearance, things wouldn't have developed to such a state, and Green Cloud sect would have definitely obtained enough quota smoothly. Chui Yuan Shan's gaze swept towards Huang Yueli, and it only took one look to make him extremely infuriated. He saw that young lass, the culprit, holding hands with Li Moying as they stood at the very end of the Celestial Light sect team. Furthermore, a relaxed expression hung on her face as she kept looking around, totally not carefully listening to him talking at all. What situation was this? Based on her background as a young lass from the countryside, this should be the first time that she obtained such a good chance for experience learning. To enter such a high-class mystic region for an expedition, so shouldn't she be acting in fear and trepidation? Why did she totally seem as though she disregarded this, making it look as though she was out for a spring outing? Did she know or not knew just how difficult it was to get this chance, which many people had tried their best, but were still unable to get it? You can also listen on. Chui Yuan Shan would not have thought that to Huang Yueli. She had seen too many of such scenarios. In her past life, she had been to almost all of the ancient mystic regions in Soaring Heavens continent, and moreover, most of the time, it was always with the man who was beside her. So to her, following her own fiancé into the mystic region for experience learning was really no different from a spring outing. Huang Yueli acted as though there was nobody else as she observed the surrounding terrain and suddenly tugged Li Moying's sleeve. Moying, did you hear what that old man Chui said? This Cloudy Chelan clan was chased out of Soaring Heavens continent by the sacred phoenix race. Looks like they have a feud with my family clan. Li Moying shot her a glance with a smile. This lass. She looked as though she wasn't paying attention, but in actual fact, she had heard what Chui Yuan Shan was talking about. He lowered his head as he laughed softly. What's the matter? Are you afraid? Perhaps the mystic region has some traps specially set up towards the sacred phoenix race. just waiting to catch a young lass from the sacred phoenix race like you to offer as sacrifice for their ancestors. Huang Yueli couldn't help but give him a punch. What's the meaning of this? How dare you actually scare me? I'm telling you, I'm not afraid. Earlier what I wanted to say is since it's the enemy's mystic region, then I must try my hardest to search for more treasures and not stand on ceremony with them. Li Moying burst out into laughter. Just admit that you're a money grubber. Why bother to find excuses for yourself? Since when have you ever stood on ceremony with anyone? Li Moying, say that one more time. Huang Yueli stared at her own fiancé in an utterly discomfited look. How dare he tear down her stage? Simply too much. Didn't he see Mo.E. and the rest giggling secretly by the side? Li Moying especially loved to see her seething look, so he intentionally teased her earlier to make her angry. But he was also afraid that Huang Yueli would really turn her face on him, so on seeing her stomp her feet, he hurriedly stopped while he was still able to. He pointed to the group in front as he attempted to switch the topic. Quickly take a look. The two sex elders are already standing in position, and from the looks of it, they're going to activate the mystic region immediately. Huang Yueli heard this important news, and indeed shifted her attention towards the direction which he was pointing at. Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect's 9th stage realm elders had already gathered together, and now they were following Krui Yuan Shan's commands, standing in position on their designated positions. There were a total of 18 elders, and the two sects came out with half each. One could tell that they were standing in position according to a special array position, and instinctively they formed a semicircle shape, whereas the core of the array stood the two sect masters, Cui Yuanshan and Murongda. After the elders were in position, Cui Yuanshan didn't announce the activation of the mystic region, but let everyone continue to wait. Having waited roughly for more than 1 hour, by now, the sky had turned totally dark and a stage of the new moon slowly shifted towards the east direction. Following the splendor of the moon's rays, the ground of the swamp actually started to surface a mass of thick fog. This mass of fog was originally very thin, but very quickly, it became extremely thick and the boundary of it became wider and wider. Not long after, it started to envelop the entire swamp. What is this? How did it become like this? I'm seeing white everywhere and unable to see the person in front of me. Could it be that the cloudy Chilan mystic region is hidden inside this mass of fog? What's going on? I can't see anything at all. How are we going to activate the mystic region? Almost all of the younger disciples present had not seen such a scenario before, and after realizing that they couldn't see anything clearly, they started to turn panicky. You can also listen on. It was a common sight to Li Moying and Huang Yueli. Before an ancient mystic region surfaced, there was bound to be some form of heteromorphic happening. It was merely a mass of fog and nothing dangerous, so it wasn't something which was worth getting worried over. Although this was the case, Li Moying still subconsciously held Huang Yueli's hand tightly. Huang Yueli laughed. Why are you grabbing my hand so tightly for? My hand is already hurting and I won't be lost. Li Moying gave a cold harumph. You always like to run about, and if I don't grab hold of you tightly, you just leave me on my own and run off. Huang Yueli couldn't help but burst out into laughter. She knew clearly that Li Moying had recalled the events in her past life, when she ran off on her own to look for high-level materials for armament refining. She held Li Moying's hand and swayed, while speaking obediently. In the past I was young and immature, but I won't do that again now. Moreover, I'm still very, very weak now and need a powerful fiancé to protect me, right? Li Moying still gave a cold snort, and although his tone didn't sound any signs of softening up, but the grip on his hand had relaxed by quite a bit, no longer grabbing on his hand tightly, but rather holding on to her gently. Huang Yueli's lips curled. This man was really easy to coax. Just a few sweet nothings settled him totally. Right now, the fog echoed Cui Yuanshan's loud, booming voice. All elders, the auspicious time had reached. I'll count to 3, so will everyone please try your best to inject profound energy towards the array. I beseech everyone not to hold back and do your best. This ancient mystic region has existed for too long, and the amount of profound energy required is extreme, whereas we only have a quarter of an hour to prepare. Once we miss this chance, the mystic region will not be activated within the next 10 years. Cui Yuanshan expressed the severity of this matter and started to count. 3, 2, 1, start. The minute he finished counting, all the elders did all they could to unleash the profound energy within their bodies totally towards the array. With so many 9th-stage realm practitioners making a move all at one go, the air was permeated fully with a might of profound energy, overwhelming with surging waves. Momentarily, some younger disciples couldn't hold on as they started retreating. There were some who even fell onto the ground directly. Luckily, the elders were standing in a position which was very far away. Otherwise, the younger disciples here would all be seriously injured. As the profound energy in the array grew abundant, not long after, the fog in the air speedily lightened and started to dissipate at a visible speed. Roughly after a quarter of an hour, the fog completely disappeared. But as it was nighttime, the surroundings still looked a little misty. An obviously black hole appeared in midair, around the height of 2 human and 4 to 5 meters wide. They could tell that this was a passageway, only there was totally no way to see the situation on the other end of the black hole from the exterior. Cui Yuanshan shouted out again. All right, now that the ancient mystic region has successfully been activated, the mystic region's entrance can only last for the duration of an incense stick, so those qualified disciples please enter speedily. Lastly, to remind all of you, we will be activating the mystic region for the second time 1 month later, so by then, everyone must arrive at the designated gathering point to wait for us to activate the entrance. If you miss the timing, then you'll be trapped inside forever. No one can save you. Now you may all set off. Everyone was jubilant, as they had been waiting for this sentence of Cui Yuanshan's. Once he finished his last note, several disciples rushed up ahead as they ducked into the black hole without turning back. You can also listen on. The others weren't resigned to being left behind as they all started to chase up, dashing towards the mystic region. Li Moying, however, wasn't in a hurry. This wasn't going to the market to buy vegetables. Surely it didn't mean that being the first few would guarantee fresh vegetables, right? If they really thought in that way, then wouldn't that be a little too naive? There were plenty of dangers and various changes in mystic regions, and in order to obtain a huge chance, to gain a rapid promotion required both luck and ability, which if either one was lacking, it would just not do. He held his fiancée's little hand as they walked in a neither fast nor slow pace, with the shadow guards following right behind them. The few of them were already at the end of the group. Moi, just as they were prepared to enter, Li Moying was suddenly called out by someone. He turned back and saw Muronda standing right behind him bearing an anxious look. Moying, the mystic region is filled with dangers, and because our celestial light sect had obtained 70% quota this time round, there is a large number of disciples who entered the mystic region. But because of this reason, there are many disciples whose ability are much lower have also entered the mystic region, so we don't know if they are able to adapt to the dangers of the mystic region. And although Green Cloud sect's numbers are much lower, but I suspect they have an internal map in their hands, and if our sect's disciples were to meet with them, it would be extremely dangerous. Li Moying understood his unspoken meaning as he said indifferently, Master's meaning is for me to take care of our sect disciples. Muronda hurriedly replied, Exactly. I also know that you might not be able to take care of so many people, but at the very least, try to keep an eye on your junior brothers and junior sisters. Muronda's worry wasn't out of nowhere. This time, both his daughters, Murong Fei and Murong Ni, were among those who had entered the cloudy Chilan mystic region. This fact made him, their father, felt really lucky, but at the same time saddled with worries. In the ancient mystic region, chances and dangers coexisted. If both of his daughters got into trouble, how was he going to explain to his dead wife? Especially Murong Ni, she was only at 4th-stage realm cultivation, and originally, she would absolutely not be her turn to enter the mystic region. But as there were too many quota, that was why she had the chance, but that also meant that the chances of her getting into an accident was much higher. Li Moying narrowed his eyes slightly. Master, you should be very clear that in order to obtain rewards in the mystic region, it would depend on one's own ability and luck before they could roam about in the mystic region. The more critical the situation, the more possibility to obtain a heavenly chance. If they thought of getting my protection, then they would probably not reap any rewards, so they might as well not go take the risk in the mystic region. Muronda was momentarily speechless. Of course he understood whatever Li Moying had said, right? He was only unable to rest his heart. Li Moying paused for a moment and said, I will take note of both junior sister's situation, but as danger lurks all around the mystic region, I'm afraid that most of my time will be on self-protection, so I won't have the extra energy to protect them. Muronda heard his reasonable and logical explanation and could only sigh. Never mind whether it's a chance or a disaster. It would depend on their own fate. Quickly go in. The activation time of the mystic region is going to be over. Li Moying nodded as he pulled Huang Yueli's small hand and walked into the black hole without turning back. After a short span of time passing through the black hole, Huang Yueli felt that all she could see was darkness, as though she was swallowed entirely in endless darkness and her body floating without any source of support. Immediately following that, she felt a warm sensation on her hand. That was Li Moying holding on tightly to her hand, not refusing to loosen. Huang Yueli instantly felt secured as the flustered feeling in her heart was gone. You can also listen on. No matter where or when, as long as Li Moying was by her side, it made her feel extremely secured, as though there was nothing that her man could not handle. Huang Yueli quickly regained her balance and steadied her footsteps as she followed Li Moying slowly moving forward. Not long later, the darkness slowly disappeared. It suddenly lit up brightly, and the minute Huang Yueli opened her eyes, she realized that they were already at a picturesque location with beautiful scenery. She turned her head back once again and saw that the black hole behind them had disappeared, and all the disciples who had the quota to enter the mystic region had all entered while the entrance had officially closed up. This meant that this bunch of people here were shut in this mystic region, and they were to spend an entire month's time here. Young disciples sat in groups of 3 to 5 on the lush green grass, but they were not admiring the scenery. On the contrary, they were throwing up while clutching their chests. Right before they entered the mystic region, which one of them weren't filled with ambition and lofty ideas, thinking that the minute they entered this legendary ancient mystic region, they would immediately go on a lucky strike, obtaining a heavenly chance to rush towards the heavens, becoming one of the few top exponents in soaring heaven's continent. The result was, the minute they had just entered the entrance, the majority of them almost tumbled. They had not expected that the interior of the black hole was so black and so dark. This darkness was very different from the normal kind of darkness where there was no light. That was absolute darkness, a kind of darkness origin which made one feel fear and unease right from their bones. Even when Huang Yueli just entered this place, there was also a short moment of time when she felt ill at ease. What more for these young disciples whose experience and mentality was far worse off than hers? Many of them stumbled onto the ground as they totally climbed into the mystic region. Even if they finally saw light now, there were bouts of disgusted feeling in their stomach as they couldn't stop themselves from throwing up. Huang Yueli frowned in disdain. What's all these? The smell is really too pungent. Li Moying was also slightly discomfort. In his past life, when he was in his blue profound sect, this kind of soft-legged prawns who couldn't even stand up from such a small matter would have been kicked out of his sect long ago. Well, more about letting them enter the mystic region. Celestial Light sect and Green Cloud sect indeed couldn't be compared to Sky Emperor City's real powerhouses. The quality of their disciples were indeed on different grades. If you feel disgusted, then don't look. Let's find a quiet place to settle down for a bit. Li Moying tugged Huang Yueli along as he wanted to leave. Whoever knew, someone had seen them and shouted out loudly, "Eldest senior brother, don't go. How could you leave alone? I want to follow you guys." The two of them turned around and looked to discover that the person who spoke was Murong and I, whom they had not seen for quite a long time. Ever since they parted ways in Dark Moon Forest the last time, Murong and I had something against her conscience, hence she didn't dare to appear in front of Lemoyne. Especially after Huang Yueli and Lemoyne returned, displaying her powerful armament, refining, and cultivation innate talent. Murong and I felt that all the more she couldn't afford to offend her, hence she didn't dare to find any trouble for Huang Yueli, hiding behind Murong Fei's back to urge her on. Alas, even Murong Fei wasn't Huang Yueli's match. If it was usual times, Murong and I would absolutely not dare to provoke Huang Yueli and the rest, but unfortunately, it was different this time around. As one of the practitioners who were allowed to enter the mystic region, her potential was one of the lowest among the rest, and Murong and I was very worried that she was not able to leave the mystic region safely. Especially when she went through the black hole earlier, she had already experienced such a horrifying scene, and Murong and I almost couldn't make it in time to enter the mystic region. She crawled on the ground for exactly a quarter of an hour and barely managed to nudge herself in at the very last moment, just before the entrance closed up. You can also listen on. Recalling the scene earlier, Murong and I was really frightened. Because of this, she didn't care about anything else other than the fact that she must grab hold of eldest senior brother's thigh properly. Based on her own potential alone in this mystic region, it really wasn't anything much, and there were plenty of chances which she could land herself into danger. But if she could obtain Lemoyne's protection, that would be totally different. However, even though she had made sound calculations for herself, Lemoyne totally didn't fall into her trap. He only gave a fleeting glance towards Murong and I as he said, "Not free." Saying that, he pulled Huang Yueli and was about to set off on his way. Murong and I hurriedly screamed loudly, "Eldest senior brother, you cannot leave. Before I entered the mystic region, my father had already told me that he will get you to protect me and elder sister's safety in the mystic region. How could you not obey my father's words? You must bring me along." Lemoyne gave a cold humph. "Just based on your guts, and you have the cheek to come in for experience learning? If you had known this earlier, then you ought to give up your quota to someone else. There are plenty of disciples who want to come in. It's not possible for me to bring you along, so just drop the matter." Saying that, he totally ignored Murong Ni's screams as he hurriedly dragged Huang Yueli away. Murong and I was simply so anxious that she was about to cry out loudly as she turned around, "Elder sister, why didn't you say anything? Eldest senior brother, he's really going to leave." Murong Fei was standing by the side, watching Murong and I sprawled on the ground still vomiting, and the ugly sight of her sobbing, as she really didn't want to admit that she and her were biological sisters. She spoke out disdainfully, "Enough, stop crying. Still not embarrassed enough? Since we've already entered the mystic region, then we're here for experience learning and not for you to go on a scenic tour. There are plenty of chances among danger, so everyone has to rely on oneself. Elder sister, don't you want to go experience learning with eldest senior brother? Are you willing to see eldest senior brother bringing that little slut along, behaving intimately?" Murong and I asked in disbelief. Murong Fei's expression turned slightly ugly. Of course she didn't want to see Huang Yueli and Lemoyne behaving intimately. Heaven knows just how upset her heart was when she saw the two of them clasping their hands tightly and how intimately they conversed with each other. But she had entered the mystic region today to achieve something big. She was going to eliminate that irritating little slut forever so that she was able to be with eldest senior brother forever. Li Ling Chuan had already told her that as long as she followed his plan, they would be able to let that little slut have no burial ground. Thinking of this, Murong Fei forcefully suppressed the jealousy rooted in her heart. Forget it, just let that little slut be more complacent for a little while more. Anyway, she was going to be a dead corpse very soon, and she absolutely could not leave this mystic region. Eldest senior brother, he was going to be hers. Murong Fei's eventually. Murong Fei spoke against her own feelings. Experience learning is experience learning. Raising our own potential is more important than anything else. In this mystic region, real chances cannot be shared with anyone else. So it's impossible for top exponents to group up with anyone. Stop thinking too much and be off. I am leaving as well. Murong Ni's eyes widened. Sister, even you are not going to bring me? Then what should I do? She had not expected Murong Fei to actually disregard their sisterly relationship. Leaving her in the lurch over here? Murong Fei said, "This is experience learning and not a scenic tour trip. If you're really afraid, then just stay here and wait to leave the mystic region after 1 month. I think it's pretty safe over here." She couldn't hold herself back from wanting to harm Huang Yueli now, so why would she even be bothered with her sister? You can also listen on. Elder sister, wait for me. Murong and I kept shouting behind Murong Fei's back. Murong Fei pretended not to hear as she turned around to leave. After Huang Yueli and Li Moying left, they could still hear the sisters' arguments faintly. Huang Yueli's brows rose as she stared at the man beside her. Li Moying was stared at by her when he suddenly felt a chill running down his spine while asking hurriedly, "What do you want to say?" Huang Yueli questioned him beamingly. "I'd not expected that you really ignored Murong and I. I thought what? Thought I would bring her along? Why would I want to bring along an irritating fellow?" Li Moying frowned. Huang Yueli replied, "Because your master specially instructed that you must take good care of your junior sister, so I thought you probably wouldn't reject her." Li Moying suddenly thought of something as he lowered his head and met that bright big eyes with its black and white part clearly segregated. The young lady by his side suddenly kept blinking while bearing an innocent expression, but was unable to conceal the joy hidden inside her eyes. Li Moying shook his head while laughing. "You really a little vinegar jar. If you're really afraid that I'd bring her along, just directly chase her away. Why didn't you get worked up earlier and only start to tease me now?" Huang Yueli pouted her lips as she mumbled, "I don't even know what you're thinking of, isn't it? She is after all your junior sister and your master's biological daughter. If you long wanted to bring her along, how would I dare to go against you?" Li Moying saw her pampered and arrogant look as he couldn't help finding it comical. He locked her waist and brought her into his embrace, while leaning near to her ear as he gave a low laugh. "Have you even considered the fact that Murong and I had once tried to assassinate you when your ability was still very weak? Although you've become strong enough now and not afraid of her taking any underhanded methods, how could I possibly play someone who had once harmed you by your side? I've already given my master enough face by not going to find trouble for her, and yet he still expects me to take care of her? How could that even be possible?" He stretched out his hand and brushed Huang Yueli's hair strands gently. "Rest assured, no matter when I will take your thoughts as first consideration, and if there's anything which made you dissatisfied, just raise your concerns on the spot. I will absolutely not tear down your stage and follow according to my wife's thoughts to handle. All right?" Huang Yueli's heart immediately got lifted up as she revealed a smile. But when she met Li Moying's mocking gaze, she immediately swallowed her laughter as she resumed the pampered look. "Can do that barely. But I'm not your wife, so don't you go saying I'm your wife." She put on a solemn expression as she said that. Li Moying felt that she was just too adorable as he lowered his head and wanted to kiss her. Huang Yueli abruptly recalled the fact that they were in the mystic region now and immediately covered his lips, which was leaning over. "Don't you come over. Brother Amo, and the others are still watching on from the sides." Li Moying didn't manage to sneak a kiss successfully, so he was extremely disappointed as he frowned slightly and straightened his body. This time round, he had brought 10 over people along. His shadow guards were all 5th stage realm and above, and had all been brought along into the cloudy Chilan mystic region. These people really needed to go through a good round of experience learning. Their abilities in Celestial Light Sect indeed wasn't considered weak, but when he returned to Sky Emperor City in future, this bunch cultivation was not enough at all. Although he still had some subordinates in Blue Profound Sect, but 15 years had already passed, and no one knew if anything had changed, so they might not be as reliable as the current Shadow Guards. You can also listen on. Other than that, Luo Jin also followed them, but the quota he used was one which Murongda had reserved for his own disciples. For Huang Yueli sighed. The few subordinates she took in didn't have enough ability, hence, she only brought along Yuan Ziyu. Although Yuan Ziyu was only in the 4-stage realm, but he had already undergone Mo Yi's demonic training and also practiced a few heaven-grade profound skills which Huang Yueli had passed down to him. His battle power among same-level practitioners was absolutely first-rate. Even if he had to cross realms and fought against a 5th-stage entry-level top expert, he would not be at a disadvantage. These people were following Huang Yueli and Li Moying at a distance far away. Looking at their intimate exchanges, this bunch of people were long used to it as they started to look up into the sky, putting on a "I didn't see anything" expression. Luo Jiun even laughed as he said, "Eldest senior brother, sister-in-law, the scenery in the mystic region is not too bad, eh?" "Ha ha." The others repeated in agreement. Yes, the scenery isn't too bad. Huang Yueli looked at their cover-up, which only made it look more conspicuous, and simply wanted to vomit up blood. Did they need to be so fake? Did they really need to be so fake? Why don't they just directly make themselves blind instead? Not only was Huang Yueli furious, even Li Moying felt that it was too troublesome to have too many tails following behind them. He opened his mouth and said, "All right, since we've already entered the mystic region, you guys don't need to follow us around and all split up to find your own experience learning chance." Everyone was stunned, but no one made a move at all. He hesitated for a moment and stood out. "Master, this mystic region is filled with dangers all around, and if you and Third Miss are alone, what happens if you meet with danger?" "Your subordinate is worried," Li Moying said disapprovingly. "If there's really danger, am I the one who will protect you guys, or you guys protect me?" Mo and the rest were rendered speechless. Having an abnormally powerful master was an embarrassing thing. He had trained so hard to overcome all the difficulties and finally completed the Shadow Guard training, but in the end he discovered that he became his future mistress's errand boy and underling. Li Moying continued, this time at a rare chance to enter the cloudy Qilin mystic region. In this kind of ancient mystic region, chances are everywhere, but however much you can reap from it will depend on your own fate. I brought you guys a knot so that you can follow and protect me, but in the hope that you can all raise your own abilities. What I want is not underlings nor errand boys, but shadow guards with real abilities. Do you understand? Everyone shivered as they hurriedly responded, yes. All of you go on your own experience learning and don't group up together. Lone experience learning will reap the greatest chance. G and you two leave on your own. You have the sex aid token, and if you really meet danger, just shoot out the token and I will go to save you. Luo Jiyun immediately replied, eldest senior brother, just rest assured and go on with Lil's sister-in-law. This isn't my first time out gaining experience, so I can take care of myself. Li Moying waved his hand, and those little tails behind them instantly dispersed. Within a few breaths of time, they had all completely disappeared without a trace. Huang Yueli gasped with amazement as she sighed. Young sect master Li, your level of conning people really make me respect you. Li Moying gave a soft snort as his gaze fell onto her fair, delicate face. Why, what did I say wrongly? My original intentions were for their own good. Huang Yueli blinked. Really? I thought you despised them for being too irritating. Since you know about it, Li Moying smiled slightly as he lowered his head and placed his lips onto hers. You can also listen on. Quickly look, there's a plot of extreme fiery obsidian stone mine. Let's hurry over. I want to collect all of it. This is an 8th tier ore, and there's so many of it. I want to bring everything back. Huang Yueli pointed to a little mountain not too far away as she cried out in excitement, and when Li Moying wasn't paying attention, she slipped away from him as she lifted her dress hem, running off swiftly. Li Moying chased up to her within a few steps and held her gently into his embrace. Why did you run off so quickly? Aren't you a little too careless? It's not your first time entering a mystic region for experience learning. Being so careless, beware that you fall into some trap. Huang Yueli replied disapprovingly. How could that be? I've read about the relative introductions in ancient manuals records on this extreme fiery obsidian stone. Although the level of this mine is extremely high, but there aren't many magical beasts hanging in wait nearby, because the ore itself contains a powerful quantity of fire-attributed energy, and if it wasn't ninth-grade magical beasts and above, they totally couldn't take it. Only fire-attributed practitioners who have ninth-grade talent are able to get close to it. Saying that, she pushed aside her sticky fiancé. All right, I'm off to gather the ores. Relax, based on my fire-attributed innate talent, gathering the extreme fiery obsidian stones is super safe, so just wait here for me. After Huang Yueli completed what she had to say, she didn't even took another look at Li Moying as she sped off impatiently towards the ore mine. In her eyes, there was no longer the existence of a fiancé, as her entire heart and eyes were filled with her beloved armament refining materials. Li Moying's expression instantly went stiff as his lips twitched, feeling both melancholic and helpless. Practically 15 years had passed by, but her Lier was still exactly the same as in her past life. For a little armament refining material, she could totally ignore a glamorous, handsome male, which directly gave a psychological blow to a man's confidence. Wasn't it just some pieces of broken stones? Would flowers even grow out from it? It actually made his fiancée shift her affections away from him. Li Moying gazed at the ore mine as though he was looking at a living third party. He was melancholic for a while, but very unfortunately, Huang Yueli had totally sprawled herself on the ore mine, starting to dig out pieces and pieces of ore stone, totally not free to notice him. Li Moying could only chase up to her swiftly as he proactively leaned in close to his fiancée to fawn upon her. Lier, let me help you. How do I get this or stone out? Directly knock the entire piece off? Huang Yueli was dumbstruck for a moment, apparently not expecting that he would appear at this place. You wait, why are you here? Li Moying saw that she finally was willing to look at him straight in his eyes, as he couldn't help but gave a smile. Why can't I be here? Huang Yueli frowned. Haven't I said this earlier? The ancient records mentioned that only ninth-grade fire-attributed innate talent practitioners could get close to the extreme fiery obsidian stone mine. Could there be a recording error in the ancient records? Li Moying's lips curled slightly. The ancient records didn't record it wrongly. Then how did you? Huang Yueli was stunned as she swiftly regained her senses. Wait, don't tell me you also have ninth-grade fire-attributed innate talent. Li Moying gave a soft laugh. Why? You are a complete attribute ninth-grade talent. So, why isn't it possible that I have ninth-grade fire-attributed innate talent? But, Huang Yueli's eyes grew wide. Li Moying didn't say anything wrong. The talents under the heavens were not just confined to her, and Li Moying's innate talent was so abnormal. So whatever happened was considered as normal. You can also listen on. It looks unclear, but against the sunlight, you can see the silver strands. Follow those patterns and inject fire-attributed profound energy, and the ore will be separated and drop down. Then place all the pieces into your space. That'll do. Quick, you're not allowed to be lazy. After she finished instructing him, she totally ignored Li Moying and continued to busy herself with digging ores. Li Moying followed behind her without any complaints despite the hardships and criticism as he helped her dig the entire hill empty. After they finished digging the ores, Huang Yueli finally left in satisfaction. But halfway on their route, she suddenly appeared slightly disappointed. This time we have gained quite a bit. This cloudy Chilean mystic region seemed a little too safe and a little too quiet. Not only are there not many dangers, there aren't many chances as well. Other than the picturesque scenery, it didn't seem as though there's any special points. Hadn't Green Cloud Sex people said that this was a mystic region which was passed down from several thousand years ago? Could they be lying to us? You can also listen on. If these words of hers fell onto those disciples who had entered the mystic region, they would absolutely throw up blood on the spot. Because Huang Yueli and Li Moying had already collected many treasures on their way. For example, the extreme fiery obsidian stone mine that was priceless, and just one small piece of, or in Sky Emperor City's auctions, would be auctioned at an astonishing heavenly price. Whereas this kind of, or mine, Huang Yueli had already dug several of it in the past few days. To ordinary disciples, even if they picked up a piece of 8th grade, or was already considered as a huge chance. Li Moying, on the other hand, had smoothly killed several 8th grade magical beasts and removed its magical beast core. He also passed the assessment at another underground palace which the forefathers had left behind, obtaining an entire set of heaven-grade upper-level cultivation methods. Just casually walking around was a huge chance. But 8th grade magical beasts to ordinary disciples were absolutely a life and death huge crisis. There was a 99% chance that they would lose their lives if they met with it. In the end, in Huang Yueli's words, it was both safe and no chances around. However, Li Moying understood what she was thinking. That's right, this place is indeed a little too quiet. Perhaps it is because we have been traveling around the outer boundary. The real chances in the mystic regions are usually in the center. Only, are you sure that you want us to proceed to the center region? Huang Yueli hesitated for a moment. We can get a little closer towards the center, but not really enter it. After all, our abilities this time round aren't really adequate. She was a little unreconciled, but she had no choice but to consider the practicability of the problem. In the past, when she and Mu Chengying entered mystic regions, both of them were both at 9th stage realm cultivations, and their potentials were simply tyrannical, so naturally they had nothing to fear. But this time they were just at 7th stage realm and 5th stage realm. The disparity in their abilities was indeed a little too large, and if they just ran in abruptly, it wasn't just a risk, it was to send themselves to death. The both of them were conversing when they suddenly heard a burst of thunder, like loud sound in the sky. At the same time, far away in the mountains, a bolt of blinding bright light shone, lighting up the entire sky until it turned as bright as daylight. That bolt of strong light lasted briefly, and after a few breaths, it started to dim. Huang Yueli's eyes lit up. Quickly look over there. This kind of abnormality, a rare treasure, must be appearing. Let's go over quickly to take a look. Li Moying nodded as he chased up to her. Their footsteps were rather fast, but there was no way to use transportation tools such as flying ships to replace their legs, and as they were very far away from the location where the bright light shone, they practically had to travel at least half of the mystic region. Hence, although they tried their best to rush over, they also spent roughly 1.5 days' time. By the time the both of them had reached the anticipated location, they saw quite a number of people who had gathered nearby. Other than a few minority, a large portion of Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect disciples had already appeared at the ground level of the mountain. Everyone were disciples of a large sect, so they had more or less heard of the strange occurrences which might appear when a rare treasure appeared. From the strange occurrences that had happened, their first reaction was, there's a huge chance. Hence, everyone rushed over to this place, and those who couldn't come were either trapped somewhere, or they were just too far away, so they hadn't arrived. As the ground level of the mountain was very near the entrance of the mystic region, many of them had been lingering nearby, not daring to travel further away, hence they had all reached pretty early. After they arrived, they saw the ground level filled with people, and very naturally, they segregated into 2 groups according to their sex. You can also listen on. By the time Huang Yueli and Li Moying arrived, both sects had been in a stalemate for quite a period of time. They already heard the argument coming from the ground level when they were still quite a distance away. This cave dwelling is obviously discovered by our Celestial Light Sect disciples, so what right do you Green Cloud Sect have to stick a pole into thinking of snatching the treasure? Luo Jiyun's voice was heard. Immediately following that, Fang Xiaoning's cold laughter was heard. What a joke! You had indeed discovered the cave dwelling, but have you successfully entered it? Have you gotten the rare treasure in it? All the treasures in this cloudy Qilin mystic region don't belong to anyone, so the one with the most ability gets it. You don't have the ability and can't enter, and yet you're not allowing others to enter? Luo Jiyun was obviously upset by that. For you to know that there's a treasure here is all because our people had activated the array on the outer boundary, isn't it? If not for this, there wouldn't be that blinding strong light at all. So what about it? You guys can't enter and activated the array, which could only mean that you're all useless. Since you don't have the ability, then stop wasting time. Scram to one side and don't make us deal with you. Fong Xiaoning was totally immodest as he spoke. Originally, when they were outside the Mystic region, although the two sects were having a competing relationship, but due to reputation, they couldn't openly provoke the other party nor attack them. But now that they were in the Mystic region, there were no outsiders around while the temptation of the rare treasure was placed right in front of them. This round, both sects had completely tore their faces as they prepared to let their fists do the talking. Luo Jian also realized that talking reason was useless as he was so angry that he started trembling. You all, simply bullying others intolerably. Fong Xiaoning gave a chilly smile. Mr. Luo, you're not young anymore, so how could you so be naive? Whoever's ability is stronger will obtain more resources. This is originally Soaring Heaven's Continent's survival rule. We are bullying intolerably? It's obvious that Celestial Light Sect has more people, but unfortunately your potential is so weak. If I were you, I would not have the face to stay on any further. Quickly scram. Hearing such intense arguing, Huang Yueli turned her head in astonishment as she exchanged glances with Li Moying, and the both of them quickly hastened up their footsteps. When they got nearer, they discovered that the scene had evidently just turned into a battleground. Green Cloud Sect's people were much lesser, while Celestial Light Sect's disciples were much more. However, the majority of those who were laid on the ground with serious injury and not being able to get up were mostly Celestial Light Sect's disciples. Even Luo Jian sustained a heavy injury as the blood on the wounds on his body kept flowing. It was obvious that even though Green Cloud Sect's numbers were lesser, but their overall combat abilities were much higher than Celestial Light Sect's. Green Cloud Sect's total combat ability was on a higher rung and included the fact that the two sects' top battle powers were not present. On Green Cloud Sect's side, other than Lung Yifeng alone, the other top experts in their sect were all present. But Celestial Light Sect was short of quite a number of people. Li Moying, Huang Yuli, Murong Fei, Li Lingchuan were all not present. Even Mo Air, and the rest had not arrived in time, so there was only Luo Jian alone who pitifully tried to hold up the scenario, so he totally couldn't hang on for long. Luo Jian was ridiculed by Fong Xiaoning so much that even his nose turned crooked. The problem was he couldn't find any words to rebuke at all, because what Fong Xiaoning said was the truth. Celestial Light Sect's disciples were at least double of Green Cloud Sect's, but in the earlier intense battle, Celestial Light Sect was totally not their match, as they were beaten pants down. You can also listen on. Celestial Light Sect was short of top-leveled talented practitioners, and no matter how many ordinary disciples they had, it was of no use. But if they wanted to make Luo Jian leave like that, he wouldn't feel resigned at all. This cave dwelling was discovered by him and a few other Celestial Light Sect's disciples. In order to enter it, they tried various methods, and in the end they accidentally triggered the mechanism, hence attracting so many people. They had already wasted 4 to 5 days' time here and was just one step away from success, but now someone else had stuck their leg in to pick up the advantages. How would they feel reconciled? Luo Jian clenched his teeth as he stared at Fong Xiaoning. You? Fong Xiaoning, don't be too complacent for now. Earlier that burst of bright light was earth-shattering, so it's not possible that only you guys saw it. The top experts in our sect are definitely on their way here. If eldest senior brother appears, he will definitely not let you off. Fong Xiaoning heard what he said and couldn't help but start bursting out in laughter. Ha ha! Luo Jian, your joke is very funny. Young sect master Li's ability is indeed strong enough, but he hasn't reached yet, so he must be trapped somewhere. This Cloudy Chilan Mystic region is so big, so who knows what could have happened? Moreover speaking, by the time he arrives, I'd have gotten the treasure in the cave dwelling. So where would he go to find me? Green Cloud Sect's other disciples all started laughing. Isn't that so? This bunch of Celestial Light sect trash only knows how to rely on Lemoying alone. Leaving Lemoying, they're no different from a homeless dog. Unfortunately, this is the cloudy Chelan Mystic region, not Celestial Light sect. Would Lemoying be able to rush over to save your life? Rather than waiting for Lemoying to arrive, why not you guys count out to us now? Perhaps we might even leave those treasures left over for you. Fong Shouting said, "All right, stop the nagging. If you're not going to leave, then I'd really not maintain this politeness anymore." Luo Jian clenched his teeth tightly, but in the end he was still prepared to leave. He himself wasn't afraid of a life and death struggle, but so many of his comrades were seriously injured, so he simply couldn't disregard their life and death. Just as Luo Jian was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly saw from the corner of his eye, in the frontal right direction of the forest, two figures walked out slowly. His eyes immediately widened with astonishment as he froze there and then. "Why are you not leaving? Need us to send you off?" Fong Shouting totally didn't detect anything amiss. Luo Jian suddenly gave a cry of surprise as he shouted out, "Eldest senior brother, sister-in-law, you're finally here." For him to see their timely appearance now, Luo Jian was simply so touched that he was going to cry. Fong Shouting and the rest had their backs facing Lemoying originally, so they didn't notice his existence. But on hearing Luo Jian screech, everyone's faces started to reveal a shocked and fearful expression. As the saying went, a man's name, a tree's shadow. They had not even seen a fragment of Lemoying's shadow, and just from hearing his name, they were all so scared that their sweat started trickling down. "You don't even think of scaring me. How could Lemoying suddenly appear out of nowhere so coincidentally?" Fong Shouting thought something was amiss and immediately calmed himself down, ascertaining that it must be Luo Jian's scheme to get out of this difficult situation. However, the last note of his sentence had just fallen when a familiar mellow man's voice rang from behind his back. "How do you know that it is not possible for this lore to appear here?" That biting cold, mighty, unexcelled voice sounded so familiar that no one would ever get it wrong. Green Cloud Sect's disciples all abruptly had a change of colors, as their complexions turned extremely pale in an instant. You can also listen on. Earlier, when they ridiculed Luo Jian, all of them were extremely arrogant, as though they weren't afraid of Lemoying appearing. But now that they saw Lemoying appear, all of them felt extremely terrified, because everyone present had witnessed with their own eyes how powerful Lemoying was. They knew that even if all of Green Cloud Sect's people present were to combine their forces together, it might not even be enough to give him a smack. Only Lung Yifeng was able to receive 2 or 3 moves from Lemoying, but unfortunately, he wasn't around. Furthermore, Lemoying was cold-blooded and overbearing by nature, so if they were to offend him, no matter what method they used, there was absolutely no way that he would show mercy on them. Lemoying and Huang Yueli walked side by side out of the forest. A pair of good-looking couple intimately walked over. In terms of looks, they were almost perfect, which was an eye candy. But to the Green Cloud Sect, they didn't even have the courage to look at them straight in the eye as all of them lowered their heads, wishing that a large hole suddenly appeared on the ground, letting them all hide inside. To let Lemoying witness how they bullied and suppressed his junior brother, what was the consequence of this? It really made one don't dare to think further. But when Celestial Light Sect's disciples saw the both of them, they all started cheering. Young Sect Master is finally here. Great, we are finally saved. Look at those people from Green Cloud Sect. Aren't they too comical? Earlier, weren't they acting stuck up? Didn't they ask us to scram? Now that young Sect Master is here, let's see who it is that will scram. That's right, dare to call us trash. In young Sect Master's eyes, aren't you all trash too? Hearing Celestial Light Sect's disciples' ridicules, Green Cloud Sect's people totally didn't dare to rebuke. Not that they didn't want to, but because Lemoying was right here. Even though he hadn't made a move or even used a little bit of his profound energy, but just at the moment when he spoke out, the situation had completely reversed. Li Moying's frigid gaze shot towards Fong, shouting, "Mr. Fong, how have you been? Just a month ago, you were having a battle with my fiancée on the arena stage, which made me had a deep impression of you. I not expected that I'd meet you so quickly in the Mystic region." Fong Shouting was originally still trying his best to stay strong as he stood straight upright. But on hearing his words, his knees went weak as he almost knelt down. Li Moying's meaning was very obvious. He wanted to settle the debt of almost seriously injuring Huang Yueli on that day.